capturing the physicality in the wide and then capturing the emotion in the close-up. Strong wide and a strong close-up. Hello everyone, my name is Corry Raymond and I am a director of photography. What's the story you want to tell? That's what it really all comes down to, because now we can talk about lighting and we can talk about mood and we can talk about cinematography, because I know the story that you want to tell.
Do you have any networking advice?
It's very much like dating. I heard someone the other day during a networking thing went up to a producer and said, I want to be a director. And she was like, have you directed anything before? And he was like, nope. Your expectation is up here and your experience is down here. She said, imagine we were dating and you've just proposed to me. You have to date me first, and then we have to do about 2 or 3 years of living together before I'll marry you. It really is all about the story. What is the story? What is it about? What is the story we're telling? Why do you want to tell this story? I want to tell a story about love and how it endures even after death. And you go, yeah, I like that. I want to help you tell that story. That sounds good.
So what was it that initially sparked your interest in filmmaking?
My dad was a musician and he used to have cameras, because the big thing about being a musician is you do a killer solo. I mean, he was a jazz musician, and jazz musicians, it's really important to be doing solos and to freestyle and to come up with stuff in the moment. So once the song's over though, that's gone, that moment's done. And often musicians doing a solo can't actually remember what they played. So my dad would film himself. And I reached an age where I remember being about 12 the first time he handed me a camera and asked me to film him while he was on stage. And the cameras got more and more advanced as his interest grew in it and my interest grew in it. So when I was about 14, 15, I was working on really sophisticated cameras with Zeiss lenses, like a really powerful Zeiss zoom lens, and it was Sony cameras, Sony HDV cameras. And then I advanced to Blackmagic cameras because my dad heard about Blackmagic cameras. He heard about this new Blackmagic camera that was coming that could shoot RAW. It was the original Blackmagic camera, and I remember all of my dad's colleagues, because my dad worked at a university. He taught in the music department. He ran the music course. So they were all really excited to see this camera, and it came and they were like, what the fuck is this? So I became the only person who was interested in using this camera. And through having to learn how to use the original Blackmagic camera, I learned about ISO, I learned about film, as in like shooting on 35mm film, shooting on 60mm film. I properly learned all of the technical terms, just trying to make this camera work. So I've been shooting on Blackmagic cameras ever since. But my foray into cameras was that. But filmmaking, I've always had, like my brothers and I are very passionate about film. We've always been film buffs. We know a lot about film, and I used to sit and I used to watch the documentaries. I used to watch the making ofs as well. So I found when I was around 18, I managed to get a foot in the door in the industry. I managed to be a trainee on a Sky One TV show, which incidentally was shot on 35mm film. So the thing that I was researching and that I was passionate about was the thing I ended up working on. Where I found when I was 18 and I joined the industry, I knew a lot about how filmmaking worked, how cameras work, just simply from this early foray into it.
That's wicked. How old was you when you got the opportunity to work on the Sky One production?
Yeah, I was 18.
18. That's young.
Yeah. I was really lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. I'm from a town called Weston-super-Mare, and the Sky One program actually was shot in Weston-super-Mare because the writer was from Weston-super-Mare. My dad actually knew the writer's brother, because Weston's quite a small town. But she went off to London. She made some connections in the industry. She did a lot of theatre. Then she had the opportunity to pitch to Sky One, and she landed a comedy series, and it was produced by Craig Cash, who's one of the creators of The Royal Family. And yeah, it was a fantastic experience. I learned an awful lot, and it was the foundation of everything I've done, because at 18, I was just taught how to be professional on set, the hierarchies, all the stuff that can be quite difficult to learn if you don't actually get hands-on experience on a film set.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That getting experience is the most difficult part of it, for me anyways, because I went to college for 3 years, and had all these filmmakers saying you don't need film school. Yeah, I did it without film school, so it was like, why do I want to go to film school or university? But it turns out getting experience is very tough. So I eventually did end up going to university for another 3 years. Before I got very lucky. So what's your opinion for the whole educational route versus gaining experience? What's your take on that?
Sigmund Freud would say I was rebelling when I chose not to go to university, because in hindsight, because both my parents taught at a university. My mum taught the singing and my dad ran the music course. So I think in hindsight, as the oldest child, Freud would definitely say that I was rebelling by going, no, I don't want to go to university. I want to go straight into the industry. I'm tired of learning. But now in hindsight, I know that the university experience is a really great experience, and you can meet people who can be your friends, your collaborators for the rest of your career. That's the truth. So I think it really does depend on the individual. I know what I was like at 18. I was really restless and I was tired of sitting and learning. I was really tired of that experience. I really just wanted to do stuff. And I had my first taste of working on something. And then after that, I didn't want to learn from anyone. I didn't want to be around students. I really just wanted to be around people who weren't learning, who were who were developing their craft, who knew what they wanted to do. So it depends. That if you'd asked me this 10 years ago, I'd have said no to education. But since, I've met people from different walks of life who have done education, and now I think it just depends on the individual. It depends on how best you learn. If some people learn better being thrown into the deep end, and some people want more of an experience and want to meet people and want to interact with people and want to learn with other people learning. So I think either is valid, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's great. So who is some of your sort of main influences growing up? You said that you was a bit of a film buff.
Yeah. David Fincher is probably the strongest. If you look at my work, and when I'm, David Fincher does this thing where he really likes the color of fluorescent lights. And do you remember when the motorways used to be filled with those horrible fluorescent yellowy orangey lights and everything was painted in that? Well, he really loves that, and I really love it as well. And sometimes when I don't have control over the grading, the colorist will actually try to correct that, and I'm like, no, I lit it like that. It's supposed to be that color. So people often think it's a mistake, but I really like a strong, horrible fluorescent light. So he's visually and technically the most influential, because also he likes to stick things on the tripod and just leave things on the tripod. And if there's going to be a camera move, then the camera move has to be super, super smooth. And that is how I like to work as well. I like to stick things on the tripod. I don't like to do handheld stuff. But I've worked with directors who like that style, so I have gone on the shoulder. I've got my own style when I do that. But if I was given the option, I prefer to shoot everything on a tripod and everything be precise. So he's the biggest influence, I'd say. And then Hitchcock for editing. Hitchcock's genius by Psycho. It all comes down to Psycho, doesn't it? With the knife, and the knife never touches the woman when she's being stabbed. Showing a montage of the different elements and then letting the audience imagine what's happening. So and then you can't beat Spielberg, right? I mean, Spielberg's everywhere. If you say to someone, oh, tell me a film director, everyone thinks of Spielberg. He's the quintessential director, isn't he? So Spielberg's blocking and how Spielberg likes to shoot things, likes to do in-camera editing, whereas you got wide, and then that wide turns into the close-up. You don't have to cut. The actor will walk into that close-up. Because I edit as well, I actually started off in the industry editing. How I like an edit to go is when I'm dragging and dropping shots and it's already pre-edited. The filmmaker or myself or whoever's doing the cinematography have pre-selected how it's going to be edited.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great. Actually, just finished a short film that utilises that kind of, I think it's sodium vapour, the street lamps. We sort of tried to give it this. We tried to give it this kind of Hollywood glow to try and sweeten it up. But no, that's really cool. It sounds like you really lent into that. It's kind of the only recent film that jumps to mind that utilises that was The Batman. I don't know if that was that kind of gritty look was similar to a project that you worked on, but I can't remember what project that was that you said.
Yeah, I've done it on a lot. I watched the Batman, and looking at that and knowing that style is now on trend is really interesting, because that's always been the style that I've been after. But probably because their influences are the same as my influences. You know, for Batman, they were going for what's that? Seven, the Fincher film Seven.
Yes.
They were saying, what happens if Batman meets Seven? So I love the look of that film. That film is going to be a huge influence to the filmmakers coming next, I think, because of the way how they destroyed the footage, the way they modified the lenses, the way how it's distorted. It's a really fantastic look, isn't it?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I really enjoyed the aesthetic of the film. So how could you describe the collaborative process between a director and a DP or a cinematographer? How does the relationship between the director and the cinematographer or DP, how does that look in the real world?
It depends on the type of director I found. Sometimes by chance, and sometimes by people researching and finding out what I'm like to work with. But I'm often working with directors. And a lot of directors fancy themselves as directors, to be honest with you. But real directors seem to not really be too bothered about the camera. They kind of give me freedom to do whatever I want to do, and then they're critical on the performance, and they're critical on how the performance reads on the camera. So, and I really like director relationships where the director's looking for me to kind of provide the visual answer to some of their questions. So they'll say, "Oh, I want to do this," and then I can translate it. But I've worked with directors who are really hands-on with the cinematography as well, who say, right, I want this, and then I want this, and then I want to start on a close-up, and then I want a shot of this. I've written a shot list, and there's 7 shots in total, and it's going to go bam, 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 bam. But a lot of the time I work with directors that have come from theatre who don't really know a lot about film either, and they kind of rely on me to be that person who makes it cinematic. So that's my favourite director relationship, when they want to focus on the performance and the aesthetic, and they leave me to interpret how that's going to work in terms of the lighting, the camera, any camera moves, how many shots, and in terms of hands-on actually on set, it'll start with them blocking the actors, and I just watch, and I'm with the crew, and I'm just patiently waiting for my turn to get stuck in. And then they show us the scene. So they say, they gather everyone around, and they say, right, we're going to show the scene now. And the director calls action rehearsal, and the actors do the scene from beginning to end. And we get to see what they've rehearsed. We get to see the flow of the scene. We get to see any complicated blocking. And then they'll turn to me and they say, right, what do you think? And I'll say, okay, well, this bit works. Let's start on this. Let's start on this. This move will be better if they then rise to this. This shot can double up as a close-up and a wide if they step into it. And then little tricks like that. But sometimes we have a storyboard and we're just shooting the storyboard and we're blocking the actors with the camera. So those are the two different director cinematographer relationships I'm used to.
Fantastic. So is there a sort of an iconic sort of shot type or a style that you see yourself implementing across all of your projects? Is there something that you like to do, an aesthetic that you like?
Yeah, and I couldn't see it for a long time, and I'm 29 now, so I've been doing cinematography for a long time, and I've been working in film and television for 11 years now, and I couldn't see it for a long time, but I've only recently been able to see it. And what I think it is I like a wide shot into a close-up. I'm not massive about mid shots. I like a strong wide and a strong close-up, and that's quite a Hitchcock thing as well, to not really bother with the mid, to go from really wide to really close. So if you look at when my stuff being edited, you'll notice it'll be big wide, and then it'll go into important close-up. And I mean, then it's down to the editor knowing when to cut to that close-up. But my big thing is capturing the physicality in the wide and then capturing the emotion in the close-up. I'm not massive on the mid, because, I mean, sometimes I mix it up. Sometimes I'll shoot a whole thing wide, close, wide, close, wide, close. And then the next scene for contrast, I'll shoot the whole thing mid with no close-ups and no wides. So that's sort of that's my workflow, and that is sort of visually the thing that I do. And when I do close-ups, I do them on a 50. I don't do them on anything over than a 50. And that gives you sort of a three-dimensional close-up, whereas it is a close-up because it's tight on the frame, but the background isn't massively compressed and massively full of bokeh. It's just a very three-dimensional close-up, like you're really close to someone's face, like physically close to someone's face, not zooming in. That's my look, I think.
That's fascinating. Yeah. So, are you able to discuss any upcoming projects that you're working on or anything like that?
Yeah, I've just got my first feature, which is exciting. I'm shooting that in 2 weeks. It's a horror movie. And that's a genre which I've done a short film in. But it's a psychological horror, so it's not blood and gore horror, which I'm not massively into. It's a psychological thriller. So that's going to be really fun, and that's going to be intense. That's just 7 days of shooting, and the aim is to shoot roughly 18 pages a day, which I have done before, so it's not impossible, but it's really tight. So you have to have a really strong workflow and know your kit really well, and know how to light quickly, and have setups that are quick to set up, quick to pack down, So that's one of the next things I'm working on. And then there's a short film which I sent you to watch that is now going to be distributed. So that's just recently gone into festivals. So hopefully that'll get into some cool festivals. Then I'll be going to that, and I'll be supporting the film, watching it on the big screen. It seems that there's all the projects which I'm working on, which are more client based, and then there's the passion project that I'll do. Either I'll collaborate with someone, or I'll direct it and do the cinematography, and that I'll do one a year, and that'll be the thing that I hit into festivals. And then I go through the festival experience, networking with people, seeing my work on the big screen. So yeah, that's the main thing in my year that I'm looking forward to always.
Awesome. That sounds awesome. So one of the things that when I went to university that I felt was lacking a little bit was the education on how the industry works in terms of the mechanics of the industry. Could I ask you, how does it work for you in terms of the more of the business side? Are you tied to agencies? Do you work completely freelance? Do you have an agent? When in someone's career would you recommend that they tie themselves to an agent, an agency, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm entirely freelance. I had a period during lockdown where I was working for an agency. I was freelance before, worked for an agency, and then I hopped between agencies. I did roughly 6 months in each agency before during lockdown it was quite strange. There was a massive amount of recruitment and people floating around viewing my LinkedIn profile and poaching me onto other companies. So I wasn't really applying for jobs as much as these jobs were just coming to me. So I'd do 6 months at a media agency, then another media agency would come along, offer me more money, and I'd hop to their media agency because I think they were so desperate at the time to recruit. So I did that, and then I was talking to someone else who worked at the media agency, and he said that the film industry was opening up again. People, especially with skills in camera, can get a lot of work, and that he was going to take the leap and go into that. So I said to my partner that I'm thinking about going freelance, and I'm jumping into uncertainty, but it seems that lockdown's over now and that the COVID's all over, so I think I'm ready. And she was really supportive. She said go for it. So I handed in my notice, and within a week I was freelance, and the following week I got an email offering me to shoot something in New York, all expenses paid. And I was like, oh my god, thank you so much. So if you're going freelance or you're a student and you're moving into freelance, it is really uncertain. But an old man, I was shooting on the street for this media agency, and it was in my thoughts that I was going to leave and go freelance. And this old guy came up to me and said, oh, what are you filming? And I said, oh, I'm just filming this thing for this corporate work for a company. And he said, let me give you some advice, young man. He said, take chances. The bigger the chances, the bigger the reward. And then he walked off. And you were meant to come up to me and tell me that. I needed to hear that. So he was absolutely right. And I was in New York going, this is incredible. I spent a week in New York, and it was an incredible shoot. And it was an incredible opportunity, and it was all expenses paid as well. And that would not have been possible if I hadn't leaped into freelance. So freelance life, but again, it's high. What this old guy said is very true. It's high risk, high reward, in that you can work on far more interesting things working for yourself and working freelance, but you have to find that work. It's not guaranteed. And there are moments when I sit there and go, oh God, what do I do? I know what I'm doing next month, but what do I do the month after? Or someone will write to me and say, oh, are you free to shoot in August? And I look at my calendar and I go, no one's booked me at all for August. So I do have those moments, but you just don't know what's around the corner, and that's quite exciting as well. In terms of getting an agent, agencies are funny. I know of people who were really far in their career and had done some amazing stuff, and they could not get an agent. And they were offered to direct a big piece of television, and still they couldn't get an agent. And someone stepped in and said, look, I'll negotiate for you, I'll negotiate this television deal for you, but I don't need anyone else on my books, so I'm still not going to represent you. And only once that director became really successful from that TV show, then did the agent want to represent them. So it's very chicken and egg. I'm not really sure, because I don't have an agent. I'm not entirely sure when the right time to get one is, but from a business point of view, a lot of agencies won't take you on until you're in demand, because they don't want to take that risk. They don't want to be trying to convince people to hire you. They want their life much easier if they're fielding offers as opposed to pitching you. So I think it's, there's multiple avenues in this industry, so many different pathways to get to where you want to get. So getting an agent's very similar. I think the bottom line is, don't just blanket send emails to agents. You have to research the agency. You have to research the person you want to write to, and know who they have on their books as well. And otherwise they're just going to ignore the email, because I ignore cold emails as well. Anyone who emails me cold, offering me some sort of service, I don't bother, because I just go, oh, you're copying and pasting and sending that email to everyone. Someone specifically writes to me, then I'll always read it, because I'll be taken back. Oh, hi Corey, I loved your, and I go, oh, someone's looked at my work. So that is the right pathway if you're looking for an agent or looking for an opportunity when writing to people.
Awesome. So is there any advice that you have artistically for aspiring DPs, cinematographers? So any resources, even for me coming out of film courses, some of the best resources for me that I found were free online content. What about yourself?
DVD extras, and all of these things have been uploaded to YouTube. So making of movies are just the most amazing resource. You can't go wrong watching how a master did it. There's so many interviews as well. Sitting and watching the directors and the cinematographers roundtable, which they do every year for the Oscars, that's always really good, and you can get a lot of insight. The main insight I got a few years ago was I sat and watched the whole of the Roger Deakins roundtable, and one of the cinematographers said, oh, I'm still not convinced about film. Roger, I know you're really into digital. And Roger Deakins said, shoot it on an iPhone. He said, I'm so bored of this conversation. He said, it's about the story, it's not about the iPhone. It's not about the technology, it's not, the audience don't see whether you shoot it on 35mm film or if you shoot it on an Arri Alexa. They really can't tell the difference anymore. So it's solely an aesthetic thing for us as film lovers. So he said, you might as well just shoot it on an iPhone. And that was really amazing to hear, because now when I'm talking to people and they're talking about what camera equipment you're going to use, I'm just like, it's not massively important to me anymore. He's right, you could shoot it on an iPhone. It's got to be about the story, So that resource, that roundtable was where I picked up on that. So it really is like sitting, listening to the masters, talking to you and having a discussion, and you're almost a part of it. But then also BAFTA do events, and the BAFTA events are very good, and they're all free. So if you can go to a BAFTA Q&A, you can learn a lot and sit in the front row and come with some questions prepared, and you can pick up a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So what's your thoughts on the very rapid evolution of technology and how it's being used in film. So this kind of goes back maybe to the last kind of 20 or 30 years. How visual effects has improved, CGI, right up to the present day of AI. How do you feel about it? Are you as worried as a lot of people are?
I am quite worried, actually. I think it's going to go very similar to the music industry. The music industry, I mean, I've seen this through my dad's lectures and through growing up. How it started, the music industry, was you would have to record all of the musicians all playing at the same time. So someone would say, okay, we're recording, and then the drummer would start, and then all the musicians would have to play. So when you listen to an old record, you're hearing it live. Then the technology evolved again, and now they could record instruments in isolation, and they would just rewind the tape and then tape over it. So you could record stuff, you could multi-track stuff. Then it evolved again to recording things in isolation. So you could have Sting playing guitar in one space and then record the drums completely separately. And if you're not happy with the drums, then you re-record the drums, which is what the Police were doing. That was their workflow. Then it evolved to digital, and now every single instrument is a sample. And you've got musicians like Charlie Puth, who is completely in charge of the sound of his music, and he records the whole thing on his laptop. And he doesn't need a guitarist, he doesn't need a keyboard player, he doesn't need a drummer, he doesn't need anyone. He just does the whole thing on his laptop, and that's his business, that's his industry now. I think it would be naive to assume that film is not eventually going to go that way. And I think the way how audiences reacted to things like Star Wars, like how negative they were about the direction in which the Star Wars movies were going, and every single fan had an opinion. But the fact that that Disney didn't double down and say, actually, we don't care what you think, we are the creators of this, we are the creators of Star Wars, either like it or don't. You know, this is the direction it's going in. They didn't do that. They actually backtracked and they started to pander to them. So that tells me that if they could create AI films, they would. If it was possible, they absolutely would. They'd save the money and then they could just please any fan they want. So I suspect the future of the medium is eventually it being someone on a laptop doing the whole movie. And beyond that, I think it's people tuning in to watch the latest Star Wars film and they get to see whatever they want to see. They type in the film they want to watch. I want to see Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo back together. I want you to ignore The Force Awakens. I want you to go into the film that I had in my head. Go. And they watch a film that they've designed. I genuinely think that's the way eventually it's going to go, if it goes anywhere, if we don't all become extinct by then. So yeah, that's definitely where I think the technology's going. And so from my point of view, I think the evolution of our role in the industry is going to be becoming that person who sits on the laptop and designs the film. So eventually courses are going to come out and technology is going to come out, and I think if you want to survive in the industry, you've got to embrace the technology and you've got to be the person who does want to pilot and does understand how to speak to the AI, because a large part of it is learning how to speak to the AI. So it'll be similar to it would just be the same as the music industry. I'll sit there on my laptop, so a client will say I want a video, and I'll just design the whole thing using my keyboard and send it to them, and it will look like, and they'll say, I want Samuel L. Jackson doing the voiceover. So I'll type in what Samuel L. Jackson's going to say. And I want a big explosion at the beginning of the video. And I want someone to come down on the zip wire. Okay, big explosion. Someone comes down the zip wire. Enter, render, send. That's definitely where I think it's going. It's a bit sad, really, but who knows? It might be similar to the independent film might be able to survive because it'll be so cheap to make it that it will be worth doing. There won't be any money in it, but you'll still be able to create it. I think the big movies will go that way, though, giant ones.
Yeah. No, we're in a kind of a limbo stage at the moment. For me, I've been doing some editing projects lately, and I've just started using this AI tool called Recut, which just removes all of the dead air, basically. And that would...
Oh, really?
It's great. I mean, it would take, say, half an hour for me, but the AI just does it like that. And in some ways, that's okay, because that's not productive time that I'm spending doing that. But yeah, it is kind of scary about the direction it's going to go. Part of me hopes that we're going to sort of see sort of almost what we saw from the late 90s to the early 2000s with visual effects. So we had kind of a bit of a cringe fest CGI overload from the 90s, and then we went to the gritty reboots of Casino Royale, Batman Begins, etc. So I'm hoping that we're going to see that time repeat itself a little bit with AI. Hope maybe towards the end of this decade. That's my optimistic point of view, anyways.
You know, the movie Dune. Dune is set in a world where there's been a war between humans and robots. So they've destroyed all the robots, and the humans have turned themselves into supercomputers, and that's how they've organized themselves. So if you watch Dune, there's no AI in the films, and the reason why there's no AI or advanced technology, everything is manual, because in the storyline there was a war between robots. So who knows, that might eventually happen as well. There might be a revolution where we destroy all AI and we have to start a little bit from scratch. That could happen as well.
That would definitely be the extreme version. So, in your opinion, you said that you were planning on going to some film festivals with your latest release. So what are your thoughts on the importance of film festivals? Again, someone that comes from an educational background, film festivals were never something that was pushed very much for us. We kind of left not really knowing too much about them. So what are the importance of film festivals for you?
Well, I mean, it's a fantastic opportunity to network and to meet filmmakers whose style you like, because you're in competition with other filmmakers, and they're all coming to represent their films as well. So if you look on the big screen and you see a film that you really like, chances are the filmmaker's going to be sat somewhere in that room. Go to the networking after, and you can discuss with them. And then, you know, because the world of independent film is quite lonely, and everyone sort of feels like an outsider, because to be an insider is obviously to be working on the big movies, or to be connected to the right people. But if you're outside of that circle, then it can feel very, very lonely and very, very isolating. But that's a feeling across a large part of the industry anyway. So it's a great opportunity to meet people and share in collaborating and picking up skills, seeing a different insight, or even getting some work from these people and collaborating. So it's really good for that. But then the other thing is that it takes a long time to make a film, right? So when you go to the cinema, you're seeing something that's probably been in development for a year of production, half a year of post-production. So you're seeing a piece of work which is a time capsule for probably 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, thinking off the top of my head, you know, The Little Mermaid has just been released. How long has that been in development for, you know? So, but with short films and film festivals, it's a lot more immediate. So you're actually seeing the culture of filmmaking a lot faster, because you're not seeing something that's taken 3 or 4 years to make. You're seeing something that someone came up with, probably did a month, 2 months of pre-production, probably a month in total of production and editing, and then sent it off to film festivals. So it's a lot more immediate, and you can really see where technology is going, what the different themes and ideas that filmmakers are experimenting with, new talent that are coming in. It's a lot more immediate. So if you really want to put your finger on the pulse of the industry, you have to go to film festivals and watch the films. You're not going to pick up too much by going to the multiplexes and seeing big tentpole movies, because they've been in development for so long, and probably the production process for so long, that you're seeing something that's basically old and it's just been released. Whereas film festivals, finger on the pulse, you learn a lot more about where the state of the industry is, and especially the themes and stories that people want to tell at that moment.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, no, absolutely. So leading on from that, do you have any tips or any advice for building professional relationships effectively and maintaining them long term? So any sort of networking advice?
It's very much like dating. And I heard someone the other day, actually, during a networking thing, went up to a producer and said, I want to be a director. And she was like, have you directed anything before? And he was like, nope. And she was like, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And he said, directing big giant movies. And she said, your expectation is up here and your experience is down here. She said, imagine we were dating and you've just proposed to me. She said, you have to date me first, and then we have to do do about 2 or 3 years of living together before I'll marry you. And I thought that was a really good way of looking at it. It is very similar to dating. You can't be too much. You know, as passionate as you are and as much as you want to work, you can't go up to people and demand that they hire you right there and then. It's just not going to happen. They don't know you from Adam, you know. And I think that's what a lot of people, you know, they get that excitement of, oh, I'm opposite someone who can help me and help my career, and they go in guns blazing. And I've never seen that work. And when I first started, I did it once or twice, and I could feel that it was not going to work, that it was not a good strategy for creating long-term relationships, because that is what it is. It is about long-term relationships. It's not a matter of someone helping you out today or tomorrow. It might be a year or 2 years or maybe even 5 years before they pick up the phone and offer you work or offer you an opportunity. So it's keeping those connections alive. And I find one of the best ways of doing it is following people on social media, and that being your thing. If you two get on and you're having a nice conversation and you're aligned in terms of what the thing, you're aligned temperamentally, then you say, oh, can I follow you on social media? You follow them on social media, they follow you back, and then you interact with them. If they post that they're working on a new short film, you comment on it and you say brilliant, and you support people and you encourage them. And that's a great method for building a long-term relationship, because now when they're thinking, oh, who should I get to do cinematography for my new film? This person has always been supportive. This person knows the stuff that I do and is interacting and supporting me and liking all of my posts. I'll message them and see if they're free. And that's how I work with a lot of people, and that's how some of the connections that have paid off for me have happened. So I think that's a good strategy.
That's great. Yeah. So in terms of actually finding new opportunities, do you have any strategies or advice for up and coming cinematographers, DPs, or someone who's not there yet but long term they want to be there? When I sort of speak to a lot of people, I'm still in close contact with people from my university who are currently doing the course, and a lot of people get very disheartened when they use Production Base, Mandy, LinkedIn, Indeed. They send out like clockwork, say 10 applications every day for 2 weeks, and they hear nothing back. And I get it. It is very disheartening. Where have you found is the best source for finding new projects and opportunities?
I think because that's a question I ponder all the time. I'm constantly looking to see. I'm like, surely there's something somewhere that I haven't found yet. There's a website. Because I feel that as well. There is a lot of rejection. I think two things. I think I think you have to have a really good attitude in terms of, and I'm on my friend's case all the time about this when I have discussions, and they're saying, oh, it's this and it's the industry. A good attitude being that if you don't get the job, not to go, oh, it's just the industry, it's corrupt. Oh, someone whose brother probably got it. Oh, this bloody industry. Because you can't control that. There's nothing you can do about that. That might be the case. There might be some nepotism or, someone they know. That might be true, but there's nothing you can do about that. Focus on the things, what you can do. So whenever I lose a gig, I go back to my portfolio and I try to look at it critically and say, why did I lose out on this? What could I have done better? And often I think I should have written a stronger covering letter. So next time I'm going to write a stronger covering letter. Or I go, oh, to be fair, I don't actually have a lot of experience in shooting X. So I'm going to do more research. So next time I know and I'm more confident that I can say that I can shoot X. So I think a good attitude is one, and a willingness to grow and be better, and I mean the objective is to be the best, right? If you're losing out on gigs, it might be because there's someone better than you. So that's a clear indication that you need to work harder and you need to try harder. That's how I look at it, and I think that's that's a good attitude, because that's the only attitude which isn't poor me. It's no, I'm gonna look at this positively. I got rejected from this. I'm gonna find out why I was rejected. I'm gonna work on making myself better. Then, in terms of finding it, I think you've just got to reach out to people. you've got to find out what's being made and send them emails, and not get upset if they don't reply, because you have a right to email them because their email's online. You don't have a right to get a reply. They can reply to you if they want to or not. So not to get upset if people aren't replying to you, but nonetheless send out emails, but not just willy-nilly emails, copy and paste. Do your research on the individual, find out what they're shooting, and tell them how you can help and how you can benefit. How I got this gig on the feature film was I knew that this film was being shot, and I knew they were looking for cinematographers. So I researched the production company, I found the producer's name, I found her email address, and I wrote her an email and said that looking at your career, looking at what you've shot, looking at what you've done at the moment, I've got a lot of respect for you. I can see how you made budgets work, and I'm exactly the same. I don't see budgets, I see the movie and the project. So because we were creatively aligned on that, she replied to my email, I got an interview, and I got the gig. So going the extra mile, finding out what's being made, and going after those people who have said, I'm looking for this, or I'm an agency and we shoot this. This is the email to contact us. Do your research on the agency, find out what you like about their work, find out where you can fit and what you offer to them that can be beneficial. Because when I first started, a lot of my mentality was take. You know, I'm a cinematographer, I'm amazing, I can create this amazing stuff, you should hire me. And that's in the height, I mean, I was 18, right? But that was a really bad attitude. The attitude is not that. It's, this is how I can help you. I understand what you need, and I can fulfill these needs if you employ me. I think that's the right attitude. In 2013, it was becoming the Blurred Lines deposition went viral, which was the tape of Robin Thicke being interviewed and admitting that what had really happened while he was making the song. He was being sued by the Marvin Gaye family for allegedly stealing the hit song, Got to Give It Up, which their father wrote, and ripping it off and using bits of it, sampling it to create the song Blurred Lines. And because my dad used to lecture on it, used to lecture on music copyright, I could see it would be a great lecture for my dad's students. So I was sending him links saying, Dad, this is getting really juicy, this is really interesting, you should play it to your students, do a side-by-side, get them to discuss it. And when I watched the deposition tapes, I went, God, this would be brilliant if I could just turn this into a script and recreate the deposition word for word, because it's strong enough and it's funny enough that it would work as just a standalone thing. And then I turned that into a script and started giving flashbacks to support the deposition scenes, and then I tied it up into a narrative where the things that they said in their interview I weaved together to get it to turn into a story, a cohesive story. And yeah, it was an absolute passion project of mine. I went around pitching it to people and they said, don't do it. Well, one said, don't do it, you're going to get in big trouble. Then another person said that it's impossible, and another person said, I don't think it's worth your time. So out of that 3 bit of feedback, I was like, I think there is something in it though, and I pitched it to someone, and he said it was really good. One person did say it was really good, and he said just start making it. So over the next 3 years, I slowly assembled a team and slowly assembled the right people. I searched for ages to find someone to play Pharrell Williams. I found them. I searched for ages to find someone to find Robin Thicke, and by chance I found someone who was perfect. Again, everyone was really perfect for their roles. I mean, the guy who played Pharrell Williams, Jonathan Taylor, who's a really lovely guy, really fantastic actor as well. They all were, I should add. People his whole childhood called him Pharrell. They said he looked like Pharrell as he was growing up and he's a teenager. So it was so everyone joked, his family joked it was the part he was born to play, and it was the right place at the right time for him. The guy who I got to play Robin Thicke, Ryan Bown, is a fantastic actor. I think he's going to end up playing James Bond in a few years' time. If they haven't discovered him already, they should look him up. Because he could definitely play Bond, and Jonathan could play the villain or something, or the sidekick or something. Like they got along really well, and they were a good duo. But yeah, it was a magical project, and we did it in 2 days, and yeah, it was 3 years prep for 2 days of shooting, and then once I put it together, because I'd had a long time to think about it as well, and to work out and to storyboard it, and to work out its kinks, work out where the story dropped, work out what bits were really good, and develop those bits. So it's a really thorough piece. It was the only thing up until then. It was the only thing I'd ever created where I had sole creativity over it and was completely in charge of it from beginning, middle, and end, and created entirely my vision. I created exactly what I wanted to create, and it got into some great festivals, won some cool awards. Got to give some award speeches, which was fun. I'd never been able to do that before. So finally felt like I'd made something that I'd wanted to make. And I remember when I was doing cinematography on other people's things, I was like, God, one day, when am I going to make the thing that I actually want to make? Because there's lots of different things I want to make, and it would just always be time. And Blurred Lines was finally that moment for me where I got to make my passion project exactly how I wanted to make it. And yeah, absolutely paid off. So the guys who said you're going to get in trouble, didn't realise how much thought I put into it, and that I'd actually worked out how to legally make it. B, the person who said it wasn't worth their time, wasn't worth my time. Well, actually, it's been one of the best things for my career, so they were wrong there. And the person who said it was impossible, I did it, so it wasn't impossible.
You know, it's awesome. I when I first watched it, I sort of double taked the actors, because like you say, it's everybody seems absolutely perfect for it. Is there any particular part that you want to kind of talk about? Maybe the technical aspect of it.
Yeah, I suppose I suppose the opening 2 minutes is the way how it's cut, the way how it's shot, every part about it is exactly as scripted, and it's edited exactly how it was in the sizzler that I created. So I created a sizzler to show to people when I was pitching it originally as a television show. And in the opening minute, it starts on him putting his sunglasses on, and the music slowly rises, and he's got a water bottle, and that water bottle, he used to have straight vodka in it, undiluted vodka. He just used to take shots of it all the time. So it's showing you this character who's basically unhinged, and he's off the rails at this moment, and he's putting on these sunglasses because he's going to portray this character, and he starts dancing to music that isn't there, and then he says, everybody get up, and we go into the music video. And then we cut to the recreation of the music video, which I was really looking forward to do, which was so fun to do. Abigail Johnson played the real life model Jessie, and then we had someone play a lookalike of Emily Ratajkowski, and they were brilliant. Abigail was so good, and she was through a friend, Dan Carser, hooked me up with her, and yeah, it was electric. It was so fun to shoot, and it was so fun to watch, and because I'd worked out how they lit the Blurred Lines music video, and and experimented beforehand with myself singing along to the song with a white wall behind me. And thank God the music video was so low budget as well. The music video was really low budget. So when we think about the song, we think about the music video with the topless girls. The reason why they did that was because they had a zero music video budget. They had little time and little faith from the music studio to make this a hit. So they had to find something to make it really marketable. So that's why they did it, and it worked. It launched them into catastrophic fame and controversy as well, which I don't think they anticipated that it would be as controversial as it was, and now as hated as it was. But yeah, so it goes from the music video, and then we intercut interviews, which they're all what he's talking about is the raw interview of I was writing Blurred Lines, and I was like, damn, we should make a song like Got to Give It Up. Something cut to something with that groove, do you remember saying that? And he's rubbing his face, and he's going, oh God. That's exactly how it was scripted, exactly how it was storyboarded, and exactly how I edited the music video with the deposition when I made the sizzler. So when I made the sizzler, I actually cut together the interview segments, and I cut together his deposition, and it would always, at the same point in the song, do a hard cut to and him having the worst time of his life. the biggest come down, I think I said the biggest hangover in history, I think, is written on the script, the greatest come down of his life.
Oh, that is fantastic. Could you briefly explain what a sizzler is?
Yeah, of course. So a sizzler is like a trailer for a film that doesn't exist yet. So it sizzles. Like a teaser is like teases you of the film, or the sizzler sizzles. So it's a similar sort of sound to tease. And yeah, it's a tool that you edit together with footage you've ripped off the internet, and it shows you something about the movie, like the tone, or it serves as an actual trailer for the film. So famously, Taika Waititi did it for Thor Ragnarok. That was his pitch. He brought in shots from fight scenes from the original Thor movie, intercut with the Led Zeppelin song Kashmir. So, and that's I think it's Kashmir. Yeah, I'm not sure what the song is actually, but it's a Led Zeppelin song.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that is fantastic. Is that it is the Vimeo link if anybody else wants to go and see this short film? Is that the best way to do it?
Oh, yeah. I'll send you the trailer because I'm still looking for a platform for Blurred Lines. I want it to go somewhere where it's just not on YouTube, where there's actually somewhere where you can go, like Amazon Prime or something. I've pitched it to Amazon Prime, and it didn't qualify under their terms and conditions, so I suspect that's because it's too short. That's been the feedback from I pitched it to Paramount as well, and they liked it, but it was too short. So, I'm trying to find a platform for it. It's probably going to end up on a short film platform, because it seems that I can't quite get it into big platforms because it is too short. But hopefully it will get onto a cool platform.
No worries. Yeah, no, I'm sure it will. Awesome. So the second one was Wait Till It Drops. Again, could you kind of give a brief description of what the film is and how you got involved with it, etc.?
Yeah. So the film is so Zara Shavas is the editor. Zara Shavas is actually my partner, and she's an actress, and she's co-directed. She co-directed a film that I worked on, and I could see that she'd be a really great director. So we were always looking for something for her to direct and me to do the cinematography. We thought it'd be a good combination, the two of us working together, and we came up with an idea about someone throwing a rock off of a rooftop, and how when they accidentally kill someone, how that changes their life forever, and how one silly choice can end up defining you and end up changing your life and having a massive negative impact on your life and other people's lives around you. So that was the inspiration, and then we did some research and we found out that it actually happened in America. There was someone who threw a rock off of a bridge and killed someone who had a family. So it's really, really dark stuff. So we wanted to make something that explored the themes of being reckless and doing stupid things that have big consequences. So it was a short film shot over 2 days. Shot it on the Great Joy anamorphic lenses. Now, before shooting on this film, I'd always shot using anamorphic adapters. This was the first time I was actually shooting on an anamorphic lens. So it was a real learning curve. It was a really fantastic experience. And I think the results are really, really cool. For anyone who knows anything about the Great Joy anamorphics, you should shoot them on full frame. And I shoot on Blackmagic cameras, and they're Super 35. So the crop isn't actually right. The crop should be a bit taller, but the crop ends up super, super wide. And but I did some research, and it's an actual old format of 70mm film to have a really stretched out image. So we thought, let's just keep it. We like it, and it also captures the claustrophobia of the characters are living under, because it's almost like the walls are caving on them, which is how they feel. So we went for that look, and it's also meticulously storyboarded with DALL-E 2, which is the AI image generating software. I started drawing the storyboard, and I thought, I might as well ask AI to see if it can give me a hand. And the images it was creating was so good that I storyboarded the whole film with DALL-E 2, and then animated those bits of storyboard by getting it to do a hand open and then a hand close, because the rock's being dropped. So I got it to draw a hand with the rock in and a hand with the rock off, and then the rock in isolation. So then I animated it and created the whole film in Premiere Pro using these DALL-E 2 images, so that I could see the film and I could see how it cut and we could see what was missing. And then I keyframe the hands and the characters walking. I would actually keyframe it in. Camera moves I would keyframe in. So yeah, the director and I were able to watch the whole film before we shot it. And the script, because it's so montagey and abstract, we knew the actors wouldn't really make full sense of it. The script didn't read as well as it does when you watch it. So we just sent them the animatic, and when we sent them the animatic, they totally got it, and then they understood, oh, we're dealing with this is going to be great, this is going to be really hard hitting. Because if you just look at the script, you don't see the tension and the cross cutting and the traveling back and forth in between time and the hard cuts. You don't see that in a script. You have to imagine that. So now, using AI, we were able to, but I say using AI, I mean, there was nothing stopping me from drawing it, but the AI was able to actually draw something really, really good that even inspired some of the shots as well, ideas that I didn't have. And then when the AI drew it, I went, oh, that's a good idea, that's a nice shot. So then I used it.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's sort of a way of almost speeding up quite a lot of the process, for the most part.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So is there any sequence in the film that we can kind of go a little bit more in depth on? And maybe we can talk about maybe the practical aspects of it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Yeah, I suppose we can talk about the first sequence when they're on the rooftop, because this will be something interesting to talk about in terms of cinematography. If we were shooting on an open rooftop, and what we wanted overcast, but because anyone international watching this, British weather you cannot predict, and it's all British people talk about the weather as well, and this is one of the reasons. It was beautiful sunshine, but really harsh sunshine. But just in case that happened, we decided to schedule the shoot from 5 o'clock. So we didn't we got to the location at 3, but we didn't actually turn over until around 4:30, 5 o'clock, at which point the sun was going to be lower in the sky, so I could control it a bit better. So a little cinematography trick is to just stick the sun as the backlight, because if you stick the sun as the hair light, you'll get a really nice glow, and then all the shadows will be facing you. And then if you get a bounce board or something reflective, something white, and you just simply hang that up, reflect the light back on the actor, and it will create a really nice fill. So even though the sun was shining when I didn't really want it to be shining, because it was low enough, and because we scheduled it later on just in case the sun did come out, we stuck the sun. I say we stuck the sun. We framed the actors with the sun behind them. Then I got a huge white sheet, which is a muslin, which is what Roger Deakins uses for bounce. So with a C-stand, I got this huge long white sheet, and I just moved it quite close to them, and it just gave them all the fill that we needed. So now, I mean, it looks uber cinematic, and it looks cinematic because the sun's behind them, and that's a Spielberg trick as well, to stick a really strong hair light, really strong key light behind, and that's what I like doing as well. So for anyone shooting outdoors or planning to shoot outdoors, schedule the shoot either in the morning to get the sunrise, or schedule the shoot in the evening just before the sun's going to start setting, because it'll be lower in the sky. The shadows won't be under your nose, they'll be to the side, and you block the actors so that the sun is coming behind them, and you bounce that light back into them, and then that's all the light you need, and it will look really cinematic as well.
Awesome. With using that technique, does it matter, in your opinion, kind of doing maybe changing the position of the camera and having the sunlight be that backlight across multiple shots, it not making physical sense? Is that a problem in your opinion?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, how I blocked it was, if I'm the sun, we've got the actors facing each other like that. So on the reverse shot, we've cheated them around. So when I say it's behind them, it's not directly behind them, it's behind them in terms of the camera. So this is the shot. The sun is actually where the sun is right now in this room. The light's coming from here, so it's creating a nice bit of definition here. And then when you shoot the reverse, the light is now on that side of the face. So that's how we did it. So when I say stick the sun behind, I mean, here's the camera, here's the subject, and here's the light. Here's the sun coming down. But in terms of as long as it logically makes sense. I have had to move sofas around, cheat walls. Reverse shot. You can do a lot. As long as you don't see the other shot in the reverse, or you get a clue of it, you could intercut a reverse shot that's in a different building. But if the cinematography is right and the lighting's right and it makes sense, then the audience would never know. But it's the same principles as like green screen and stuff like that, the actor you're acting opposite doesn't even need to physically be present if they're not in camera. So you can get away with a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Okay, brilliant. Is there anything else in general that you want to talk about, or that you want to say?
No, I think your questions were really great, and I think, you know, I talked about advice to other filmmakers, best disciplines, stuff like that. I think, I suppose the only thing I'd add is that one thing that I would do that I would get too wrapped up in when I first started. When you watch interviews with pros, with people who have got 40, 50 years as cinematographers in the industry, they always say it's not about the camera, it's not about the lights, it's about the story. And I always thought that was a bit of a cop-out answer. I'd be like, oh, just tell me what camera you shot on. You know, you're just saying that because everyone says that. But then you realise that it's actually completely true. I shot something on a really expensive camera, and I got into a film festival, and I was really excited to see if I'd be able to tell the difference between the expensive camera and any other camera that anyone shot on, and I couldn't see the difference. And it was really disappointing to know that I'd put that money into it and that I couldn't see the difference on the big screen. So, and that's to do with the way how films are actually projected and films are watched on TV. You know, if you go into the technicality of things, most TVs are not 4K TVs, and we shoot now on 6K, 8K, 12K, and people don't have a way of watching that, and they're likely going to end up just streaming it on their phone, to be honest. So they're never going to see that definition. So all of that stuff doesn't really matter. That's just marketing for the camera. Oh, we've got a new 12K camera. Doesn't really mean anything, because there's no way of showing that. And people say, oh yeah, but you can punch into the image in post. But most people aren't reframing their shots in post. They're getting the shot that they want, and then they're moving on to the next shot. You know, they're shooting with precision. They're not just shooting and then cropping in post and going, oh, let's design this in the edit room. So it really is all about the story. And if you get a gig with a director, or you're working for a cinematographer, the first thing you need to ask is, what is the story? What is it about? What is the story we're telling? Why do you want to tell this story? And get the director or the cinematographer, if you're working for a cinematographer, but if you are the cinematographer, get the director to pitch the story to you and say what they like about it, what they want to tell. You know, and it's not just, well, you know, the story's about Bob and Bob's in love with Diane. It's like, no, what you want to hear is, this is a story about love and how love conquers everything. Or, I mean, that's a bit cheesy, but it's a valid thing to make a film about. You could say, I want to tell a story about love and how it endures even after death. And you go, yeah, I like that. I want to help you tell that story. That sounds good. That's how to engage people. And also that's the way to have the conversations about, because now we can talk about lighting and we can talk about mood and we can talk about cinematography, because I know the story that you want to tell. So that's what it really all comes down to. It's what's the story you want to tell, and that's it. Just find out what the story is and tell the story.